Shalom, 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 and welcome to Malachi News Network. I'm your host, Priest Kazak Yah. I want to share a video that I just witnessed from CNN News, and they have an interview with Carl. I think is it Bernstein? I might have the wrong name, but let's just roll the tape.
Joining me right now, CNN political analyst Carl Bernstein. He is the reporter who helped break the Watergate story in the early 70s. Carl, I mean, is this deja vu for you to hear this kind of audio tape of the President of the United States, the sitting president, who is trying to change the truth, who is trying to instigate overturning of election results in Georgia?
It's not deja vu. This is something far worse than occurred in Watergate. We have both a criminal president of the United States in Donald Trump and a subversive president of the United States at the same time in this one person, subverting the very basis of our democracy and willing to act criminally in that subversion.
Wow.
But more important, what we hear on this tape, this is the ultimate smoking gun tape. It is the tape with the evidence of what this president is willing to do to undermine the electoral system and illegally, improperly, and immorally try to instigate a coup in which he remains the president of the United States. And in any other presidency, this tape would be evidence enough to result in the impeachment of the president of the United States, his conviction in the Senate of the United States, and really an immediate call by the members of Congress, including of his own party, that he resign immediately.
Wow.
That's really what we ought to be hearing.
Did you hear that? he says that this thing is worse than Watergate. Oh my word. I mean, he's calling for the resignation. This is a man with the voice of wisdom speaking. And he says it with such passion.
From Republicans at this moment, Mr. President, resign, leave the White House. This is unconscionable, it is wrong, and we of your party will not permit it. Now, we're not going to hear that. We might from a few Republicans, but that's what's really called for here. And the one thing we should recall from Watergate is that the heroes of Watergate were Republicans who would not tolerate Richard Nixon's conduct.
And then, to a parallel, then perhaps a hero here would be your Georgia Secretary of State, Brad Raffensperger, who is willing to stand up to. You listen to this audio recording. He is standing up to the president, saying, "No, Mr. President, you know our numbers say this. Your numbers might be different." And then you go to the court, and the courts have already seen fit that our numbers are correct. But the president continues on the tape defiant, and he threatens the Secretary of State and the attorney, saying point blank, it would be of great risk to you, to do something other than what I'm instructing.
First of all, your implication is absolutely correct. This is a threat, a real threat, but not just for some general purpose, but a very specific criminal purpose for the Secretary of State to come up with a certain number of votes plus one to deliver illegally an election to the President of the United States. We've never had a tape like this before, including the Nixon tapes. But as the heroes, yes, the Secretary of State in Georgia is a hero, but so are hundreds of other election officials and state officials who have done their job, counted the ballots, stuck with it despite threats, including to their safety and health. We've had a lot of heroes here. Where we have not had heroes is in the Senate of the United States, particularly the Republican members of the Senate of the United States, except for a few who have been craven in refusing to condemn this kind of conduct by an out-of-control President of the United States. And the real disgrace in the House of Representatives, more than 140, probably a majority of the Republicans in the House, willing to promulgate and continue this idea, despite the evidence of upending a legal, proper election in which the evidence is clear, the results are clear. This is fantasy. It's not delusion, because they know what they're doing. And the question really is some.
Ooh, did you hear that? He said it's not delusion. He said it's not delusion. He said they know what they're doing. Oh man. He's a voice. I'm telling you, these older guys are a voice of wisdom. Pat Robinson, the other day, I shared a video on my other channel where he came out and he said Trump give it up. He said it out of his own mouth that Trump was delusional, had his own reality, right? And now we have Carl Bernstein, and incidentally, Carl Bernstein is Jewish. Mr. Trump.
Real leader of the Republican Party. Liz Cheney has done it, and I hope she continues to. But is there a leader in the Senate? Could McConnell, miracle? No, I doubt it. Get up and say, now, Mr. President, you have gone too far. That would put an somewhat, not an end, but would certainly curtail some of the craziness and the outrages that we are seeing from the Republican Party. And also, in the long run, look, I don't have a crystal ball, but I would think that the Republican Party, that this presidency, and particularly its end, and supporting what this president is doing in the final days of his presidency, may be the end of the Republican Party as we know it, as a constructive.
Oh, did you hear that? He said it might be the end of the Republican Party. So the people, the sincere people that are in the Republican Party, and there are a lot of sincere Republicans, and they know this is not right. They're not jumping on the bandwagon with this, and they're like, what is going on with our party? Democrats, that's a whole nother lesson. But right now, the Republicans that should be standing up are not standing up, just like he's saying. And they know they are participating, they are complicit in this sieging of the power of the United States president. They are inciting the flame and fire of this man who is deranged in his mind, because the whole premise is before the election, not Barry Sanders, that's a football player, Bernie Sanders prophesied that Trump was going to be leading in the polls on the day of election. And then he said at the end, he said after the mail-in ballots come in, the states that were red are going to flip blue. He said, and then Trump is going to holler and cry, fraud, 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 election fraud, right? He called it. So, Mr. Bernstein, I agree. He's right. He's saying these people know what's going on. Trump is angry because he lost, because apart from the other things going on, his lawsuit and league, if you listen to his long hour speech that he was supposed to be giving a State of the Union speech, but he talked about the election fraud for a whole hour. He talked about the court cases that he has facing him when he goes back to civilian, I guess you could say civilian. He goes back to public life and how he's going to be confronted with different court cases and lawsuits from different things that have already been rolling while he was sitting in the presidential seat. So he's afraid of going back. That's number one. Number two is because he spoke so much negativity about Joe Biden being Sleepy Joe and he was the worst candidate, and he was bragging and boasting and saying how he wanted to run against Joe because he know he'll beat Joe. So now it's like it has come back to slap him in the face, because the same man that he talked about has beat him in the election on the popular and on the electoral side, not just one side. He won in a landslide. Okay? So I agree with Mr. Bernstein 100%.
Of decent force in our politics in this country. And all of these Republicans, from Cruz, all the rest of them who have participated in this sham, really ought to be made to pay by history, as should their party. This is not some kind of forgivable act. This is not about two simple equal sides of an equation.
He said it's not a forgivable act. Oh my word. He is saying the same thing that I say. Who am I? I'm just some little bald-headed man with bad teeth, as you would probably say. My teeth fell out because I was foolish enough to spend a lot of money that I didn't have. Back in the day, I had a dentist, and this is not news, but I just want to make a point because somebody was on to talk about, my teeth, and you should go and get your teeth fixed. You know what? You shut up. My teeth fell out because I had all these silver fillings in my teeth, and then through the process of over 35 years ago, the fillings, because the dentist I had, he was drilling all kinds of holes in my teeth because I had a good dental plan. I was ignorant. I didn't know what he was doing. He was telling me, you got a cavity here, I got to fix it. He was drilling holes. He was drilling, he was an old guy too. Old German. And he was specifically drilling holes in my mouth and putting silver. I was working for the school district of Philadelphia, so I had A1 top medical benefits back then, back in the mid 80s and late 90s. So he drilled holes all in my teeth and filled it with silver, and so that's what happened there. So just so you'll know, okay. That's neither here nor there, but okay. So Mr. Bernstein, back to Mr. Bernstein. So Mr. Bernstein said, this is unforgivable, he says.
There are no two sides to this question. This is about democracy, fundamental principle, and the astonishing thing is to see one of the parties, one of the great political parties, the party of Lincoln, the party of Eisenhower, etc., etc. What was also for a while the party of McCarthy. And now we have for the first time, a president of the United States who has exceeded McCarthy in his authoritarianism and his disrespect for the Constitution, the rule of law, and the Republican Party of our time, with McConnell's leadership, with McCarthy's leadership, has gone along with it to their disgrace.
Joining me right.
Wow. Did you hear that? What are we going to do with this government? And now you can see now why people say their vote don't count. And I totally disagree with that. Your vote does count, because if you hadn't voted, he wouldn't be in office. He wouldn't have made it to be elected in 2016. But because you didn't vote, because you was told your vote didn't count, and now here's where we are now. We have this. I'm telling you, you all don't see it, but we're in such a critical time in this country, and if you know how to pray, if you're a praying person, this is the time to pray, because we don't know what's about to go down in this nation. So be on the lookout I will be giving updates as I get them. So be on the lookout for the 6th, which is 2 days from today, because we don't know what's going to happen. They're talking about it's going to be riots and stuff, because the Senate is going to make their call for the election certification for the new president. So, and the people on the far right are not happy, and they are coming in town, and I guarantee you they will be packing. Okay, that's all I have for now.